Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is just going to be a slightly different type of video. This is something that I've been wanting to make and talk about for a while. So for any of you that have thought about applying for medicine or have been through the process of applying for medicine, from the entrance exams to the interview process, the medical application system is very susceptible to being gamed. Right? As much as people try to design elements of the system such that it can't be prepared for, it very clearly can. There are thousands of kids every year that are desperate for a place at medical school, but the difference is that some of those kids know what they're doing, either because they know people in medicine, or they come from a school that is good at getting kids into medicine because they understand the process, or they've got the money or the wherewithal to go and do a private course that tells them what to do and coaches them to get a place at medical school. There are only a limited number of places at medical school. This is going to happen. It's a zero-sum game. Unfortunately, the people that prepare best to take the UKCAT, to do the interviews, to write the best personal statements, those are the people that are going to get in each given year. But it's an uneven playing field, because there are situations that apply to you naturally or unnaturally that are going to better place you to do better in your application process, regardless of kind of your own wits or merit. And this is where I get a little bit aggravated fundamentally, because there are so many kids so desperate for that place at medical school. This has led to the rise of an extremely predatory market. And these markets exist for every part of the application process, either for coaching you on what to put in your personal statement, or what to say in the interviews, or how to do better on the entrance exams. And preparing for your application using these processes can easily run you hundreds of pounds. If you want to do a weekend crash course in an MMI, 200 or 300 quid. If you want to prepare for the UKCAT and get a day of tuition, 100 quid. Access to private question banks, 50, 60, 70 quid. Even just buying books to help you prepare for the interviews, like the most basic form of help, 20, 30 quid a time, maybe even more. The point I'm trying to make is it's very expensive to prepare using private solutions for medical school. And before we go any further, I don't talk politics very much on the channel for obvious reasons. I'm not kind of a raging lefty, I'm not a socialist, I don't believe in the idea of equality of outcome. I'm in fact more libertarian probably than most medical students you would speak to. I do believe in the power of markets, but unfortunately what we have in this situation, because of the nature of who's applying to medical school, we have an uninformed market. It's very, very one-sided. The med school application process is murky and confusing, and it basically relies on you knowing how to play the game, or at least having someone else equip you to play that game. If you don't know any doctors or anyone that's been near a medical school, or have anyone at your school that is good at getting people in, you don't know how to play the game. You're at such a huge disadvantage. And that's where this just relentless profiteering comes in. And that's on all sides as well, particularly where parents are concerned. If your kid at 15, 16 or whatever says, you know, I really want to apply to medical school, but no one's got any idea where to start, of course these courses seem like a good investment. So in that situation, it's perfectly reasonable to plonk down 200, 300, 400 pounds for your child on these courses, because they're a good investment. They're more likely to get them into medical school, so why would you not? But obviously where I'm going with this is that there's a certain percentage of the population that are never ever going to be able to afford these resources. These courses book out year upon year upon year, and there are only a finite number of medical school places available. And it's just become a situation, for the most part, where the people that are able to pay or have someone else pay for them are going to get into medical school. They're going to become the next generation of doctors, and the process just repeats itself. As I say, we're just in a situation where the people that can afford to pay will get in on average, and the people that can't won't. But the reason that I really wanted to speak about this is that companies are always going to exist like that. That's fine. If people want to set up companies to do that, that's on them. Markets exist, companies exist. You can make a quick buck off preying on an uninformed consumer base. If you want to do that, that's your choice. I take slight issue with medical students doing it in particular, because we're in the system and we know this. We know that this happens, and some of us have even benefited. I'm not saying myself personally, but many med students who are in will naturally have gone through these courses, and they should have the realization about how predatory they are. And most of all, I get very annoyed when I see medical students charging for services such as reviewing personal statements, doing mock interviews, things like that. And the same actually goes for doctors, but that's an argument for another time. Your time is obviously valuable to you, and if you decide that reviewing personal statements is worth 20, 30, 50 quid a time to you, that's what you want to charge people, that's up to you. I don't take a problem with people providing a private service and having someone agree to it, but I would argue that most medical students, if they engage in these kind of behaviours, are being a little bit dishonest. Because let's face it, right? I could charge for my personal statement reviews. I've done enough of them to the point where I would feel confident saying that I could tell you with some degree of accuracy whether or not your personal statement is good. And I could charge, say, £20 per time to do that. But the thing is, what do I know ultimately? I've been through the process once. I've written one personal statement, had it accepted once. I got one interview out of a potential 4 I could have had in my application cycle. And therein lies the rub, because medical applicants who don't know any better think that medical students and doctors know the ins and outs of the application system very, very well, and are in a position of authority to tell them whether things are good and how to succeed. And to an extent we are able to do that, more at least than the average medical applicant, but realistically speaking we don't know very much about the process. And it's a fine line, but to me it feels a little bit predatory. I would feel incredibly dishonest if I started doing that. And because of this platform that I'm so lucky to have, and so privileged to be able to have, I realise that I speak with some kind of authority in the videos. You know, I give the impression that I understand what's going on, that I know how to do well in a medical interview. But the thing is that I don't really, and to a certain extent neither does anyone else. And I just don't think that as a group, we as medical students are doing as much as we could be to level the playing field. And as far as I'm concerned, unfortunately, the only way to do that is saturate the market with free resources. There's always going to be a certain population that cannot afford the price of any resource that we put out there. Those are the people that we need to be targeting, because unless we target them specifically, they're not getting in. And to let the cat out of the bag on something a little bit, I haven't spoken about this before on the channel, but I'm writing a book at the moment. I'm writing a book on medical interviews, about how to answer, or at least a guide to begin answering many of the questions that you might be faced with in an interview. I haven't worked out the specifics, but that's going to be either free when it comes out or as close to free as is feasibly possible. There's basically going to be no profit for me as far as I'm concerned. And just because of my experience in doing all this and having the conversations that I'm able to have with you guys, I know that it's doable. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm tired. Keeping up all the videos, all the engagement, reviewing the personal statements, things like that, it's tiring. It takes a lot of effort, particularly when I know that I could, in theory, be profiting. That's obviously, we have to make the money come from elsewhere to make sure that I'm able to do that. But I just don't think it's fair for medical students and the wider industry to be profiteering in the way that it is from an uninformed market. That's the thing that I don't like. It would be very different fundamentally if medical applicants on the whole had some means of telling who was bullshitting them and who wasn't. So that's what this is basically. I'm putting it to you guys. I implore, please do what you can. Go back to your old school if you're a medical student, particularly if you come from a school that has low throughput to medicine. You need to be seeking out the people who don't necessarily even know that they need the help. Target the disadvantaged kids in the area that you find yourself. If you have to profit from it for whatever reason from these things that you're doing, please keep it minimal, keep it reasonable, keep it attainable. My own standard, my stuff is going to continue to be free. It will always be free. That's not going to change. This is something that I feel really, really strongly about. The bottom line is that we need to do what we can to make sure that health careers are accessible for everyone. And at the moment, what we're doing as a group just isn't good enough. I know, and you know, that loads of people out there are doing fantastic things to help widen participation across every type of social, demographic, cultural group, whatever marker you like to use. So cheers, guys. I apologise. This has been a bit of a rant, but it's something that I feel really, really strongly about. And I think we can do amazing things. It's just a case of making sure that we do them. Am I wrong? You know, I'd love to hear from you. Please let me know what you think about this in the comments, or shoot me a message if you want to talk privately. We can do that at my website, postgradmedic.com. I'd love to hear from you. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.